Edo State Governor Gordon Obaseki has been reported this morning as saying that his convoy on the campaign trail was yesterday attacked in the home of Adams Oshiomhole, former governor of the state and immediate past national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, and coming closely on the heels of last week's attack on the Edo State House of Assembly in Benin, which led to the extra constitutional removal of the principal officers of the state legislature. There's a little doubt that things are beginning to take an alarming wrong turn in the build-up to that state's forthcoming governorship elections on September 19. The narrative on both sides of the political divide going into the election has been nothing short of inflammatory. How much significance will this bring to bear in the chances of peace and security of voters on election day? Are the two major political parties that will be on the ballot taking any conscious steps to nip the worrisome development in the bud? Well, a lot has to be said about that one, but for greater insight, we're now being joined this morning from Benin, the Edo State capital, by Senator Matthew Urhogide, Deputy Director General of the People's Democratic Party Governorship Campaign Council for the impending election. Good morning, Senator. It's a pleasure having you on the morning show. Senator, leading up to this election, we've seen a lot of violence. We've seen a lot of talk by the governor that he can't campaign in places like Esako because of violence, and now the attack yesterday. Is the politics of violence going to avail the people of Edo much?
Well, first, thank you very much, and let me thank you too for the privilege, of appearing in this your program. First, let me correct the wrong, notion you just gave. I'm not the Deputy Director General of the PDP campaign in the state. I'm the coordinator of the campaigns in my senatorial district, which is Edo South senatorial district. Okay. Now, let me come to your question. What you just said now is, the seeming, prevailing violence in the state. Well, so far, the activities that we have seen, tend to portend, that the future, at least as we go, into the governorship election, we really not be too, too conducive, for the normal, electoral campaigns and, of course, election proper. Well, just like the governor has been saying, and I mean, a lot of us believe too that, this thing really, must not, be punctuated with violence, because violence will not help anybody. Power comes from God. And we believe too that anybody that has been destined, and of course given the privilege by God to, to assume power, we assume power, no matter, the manipulations or the violence that is perpetrated by anybody. So, we are still watching a lot of these things, because there are accusations and denials here and there. And we believe too that, it is not going to help anybody. Only yesterday, in my ward too, in Oredo local government area, the PDP leaders were going on campaign, and about 6 of them were kidnapped and taken away. We're all surprised at this, and we just believe the development is too ugly, in our 21st century politics.
Well, Senator, the entire country is concerned, INEC is concerned, and INEC only about a week ago said that it was going to call members of the campaign council of the political parties taking part in the September 19 election to a meeting to discuss specifically this issue of violence. Has that meeting taken place? What transpired at that meeting? Is there any commitment on the part of the political leaders across to restrain their followers, their supporters, from engaging in violence? What kind of dialogue is going on? Because it's not enough for you to say, well, your party does not believe in violence. There must be a commitment across. And has there been also meetings with the security agencies to prevent a blowout that seems to be in the offing in that state, politically?
Well, let me say this, very clearly. I mean, I cannot be on a program like this, and of course I will be preaching violence, as far as elections are concerned, by virtue of the fact that, I mean, we are supposed to signpost, good behavior when it comes to electioneering and campaigns, in general. INEC, I mean, as usual, we always call the political parties, and of course try to read the Riot Act and, try to secure, commitment from them that, they are going to conduct themselves, with all the, rules of engagement and all of that. But it's another thing for the parties, some of the leaders and their followers, to carry out these things. It is true I never met with the parties, and then of course, to try to encourage them, that they have to, put up the best conduct, so that at least the atmosphere will be conducive, for them to superintend the election. But as you know, how this thing started, really, started on that day that the governor, went to the palace in Benin. I was in that entourage, and it was an ugly scene, with all the governors that came. You see, youths, adorning the APC, colors, hitting our vehicles, destroying our vehicles, and then of course, as we were going to the palace, just at the gate of the palace, and a lot of us were embarrassed, to see that this type of a thing was going on. It doesn't matter. I'm not here to condemn who has done this, who has not done that, But I think we should all eschew violence. It's a thing that is condemnable, and then of course, if you remember that day too, when the governor got on the platform, at the stadium, to present his own address, he appealed, to the PDP youths, please, there should be no reprisals. There should be no retaliation, and that all of us should, conduct ourselves, in a manner that, nobody will be wounded, nobody will be killed all throughout this period. I am still preaching the same thing. I'm not coming here to defend the PDP or defend the APC or defend the PDP or condemn the APC. The same message I'm passing out to every citizen in the state, that we need to conduct ourselves in a manner that is acceptable. There's nothing anybody can do. What violence will cost us is costlier than the power that we seek. So I'm also appealing to everybody, even those that are not in the parties, that we should not put violence, into reckoning at all.
Well, it's refreshing to hear you say that. And you describe the situation as ugly. But let me ask you, why do you think that it has degenerated to this ugly politics? Is it a lack of people-oriented politics in Edo, or a lack of political ideologies between the major political parties, which your party is one of them? Or a combination of that and more?
No, but let me say, just like Edo and in other parts of the country, crass intolerance is, is the major reason. People don't want to, accept the reality. Democracy, when people tell you the government of the people, by the people, for the people. Oftentimes, even those of us who are literate, who are the elites, we don't want to define it the way it's supposed to be. If, of course, the greater majority of the people have made a choice, or you are saying it too that the choice that is, coming to the fore by the people is not the choice you want. No matter how stupid, no matter how foolish that choice is, we have to respect it because it is the choice of the majority. And this is what we see. When, of course, situations present, somebody is presenting his manifesto, somebody is telling people, this is what I want to do for you. Of course, he is signing a social contract to the people. And it's expected that if his message is going down and the people are accepting it, the one that is not doing well, or the one that has verifiable evidence of performance, and it is that he has something to show. He's seeing the testimonial, he's showing it. And the other one that does not have anything to show says, no, don't show it. I don't want you to show it. So it's intolerance, crass intolerance. And we know that this is majorly the reason. Otherwise, these two candidates that we have in Edo were engaged in 2016 for the same position. They went through the same contestation. Nobody was killed. We didn't see this violence. But now, this time, a lot of the gladiators that are in it seem to forget that violence is not what we need. And of course, as the thing is heating up, desperation is coming in. And as people are getting desperate, you see they are going into the area of comfort of other persons. And that is the well-being of these people. So I will just tell everybody to try to understand. But on the whole, let me say this. a lot of us are still very optimistic that the elections will go on well. Nobody will be killed, nobody will be hurt. Because as the days, come by, everybody's going to come to terms that this is the direction. And no matter the choice of the people, that is the direction we'll have to go.
But, sorry, you say you're optimistic that this will go on well, but you just said moments ago that 7 of your party members were kidnapped yesterday.
Yes.
And you're still optimistic?
That they kidnap them, everybody will say no is normal. We are not, I've not said that the opposition is responsible for the kidnap. Kidnapping is an everyday phenomenon in this country. So nobody will tell you now that, one party is responsible for it. I'm not saying that. People were kidnapped yesterday, and it's for us to say, the usual course we follow in freeing, kidnapped victims. We are following that route. And we are not saying it is out of the present day campaigns, governorship campaign going on in the state. But if it has anything to do with it, even as they hear my voice, it is that, please, this is not right. And everybody must eschew it.
Okay, I think it was Karl Popper that talked about we must be intolerant of intolerance. And we must not, we must try to tolerate one another pretty much. We must, understand that it's an election. And in the end, it's all in the benefit of the people. But a lot of people, especially on the other side, the opposition, will say this to you. And this has been their constant argument, that Governor Obaseki has constantly said, I will not take, the nonsense from anybody that wants to disrupt the states. They even go further to say that he claimed he will met out, probable punishments for anybody that tries to unsettle the state, which they think is meeting violence for violence. They also make this argument about him saying at a certain forum that it's only him and the deputy governor that's got immunity. And they say words like this, are fanning the flames as regards violence in the state. What's your reaction to this? The opposition will normally argue.
Dr. Abati, let me say this. Governor Obaseki, like any other governor in the state, is chief security officer in the state. And then, of course, just like in our constitution, the primary purpose of any government is the safety of lives and property of the citizens. And therefore, the first person to be held responsible, if there's a breakdown of law and order, it is the chief executive of the state. That's the governor. So whether the governor is involved in this contest or not, he knows that he owes the people the responsibility of providing safety for them. And that is just the point. And if anybody too, that is on the other side, believes that what he has said, which is, of course is the truth, or is a matter of fact, then the person must know too that this person who is the governor owes the people the responsibility. And of course, if the constitution provides, immunity for him and his deputy, they too must know that any stick he has to wield, no matter how heavy that stick is, the governor too cannot be prosecuted at this time. So that is the last resort. We don't even pray that he gets to that point where he has to do things out of the ordinary only for him to be covered by immunity. And those, of course, who are perpetrating this act must know it too that you shouldn't push, the governor to the extent where he himself believes that his own life is unsafe. If he believes that it's unsafe, for instance, and he has his security details or other security officers around him, he has the right to order them to shoot anybody. And when that one happens, you cannot prosecute him. But let that one not happen. It happened before, and that's what I just said. The day he went to the palace, he was inside the bus with his other colleagues, the other governors, and people were hitting the bus and all of that. And if anything, hitting the glass and trying to break it. And if that day he had ordered his security detail to shoot at these persons, of course, the whole thing place would have ended in a cataclysm. But nobody wants to get to that point. And nobody should show intolerance, to other shades of opinion or other things that are going on within the landscape of our politics in Edo State. For now, let all of us behave in a decent manner and know it too that this is the way it has to go. A lot of us have been on this road for very many years. I contested election, from 1992 to the Senate until 2015 when I won election for 23 years. I didn't kill anybody. I just saw it that it was the way God wanted it. I was oppressed and repressed in the same system. So the whole thing is, everybody must know it. You know, wanting power is not a 100-meter dash. It's a steeplechase. You run, you fall, you stand up. Anybody, by the time your time comes, God will give it to you. But when you are too insistent and you don't want to tolerate other persons, there is no way you will not run into trouble. So, but I just believe, let us not get there, where the whole place becomes ungovernable, where the governor has to use his immunity status or the immunity that he has to, put to bear, what is happening when it comes to misconduct, by other persons in the state. So I just believe what he said, it was not grandstanding, it was not sounding tough, but it's just the reality of the situation, and everybody really must accept this.
Well, Senator, I would like to ask you about the role of Comrade Adams Oshiomhole in this election. How strong is the Oshiomhole factor, and do you think that it will have a great impact or less on the outcome of the election? He himself insists that he's not a candidate and that people should not be putting him on the spot. But, I mean, looking at what is going on in Edo State, we see, of course, that it's a major factor in that election. What's your assessment of how far he has been part of the narrative?
Well, first, in as much as I don't want to sound too personal, I'm talking about him, Comrade Oshiomhole, I don't want to give an assessment, but let us put the, facts, to the fore. 2015, when we were still governor of this state, my senatorial district is the largest senatorial district, Edo South senatorial district. It's about 58% of the state. I won the election here. That is where the seat of power is. He was governor. And then, of course, my other colleague, Senator Clifford Odia, on the platform of the PDP too, won Edo Central. He won only his own senatorial district. So, in 2019, we came back again. He campaigned, he was chairman of the party. I was returned. Senator Odia too was returned. Our members of House of Representatives too were returned. We lost some, they lost some. And they will have equal numbers. So I don't see any factor that Comrie really, is going to constitute that will be overwhelming. I don't see it. But the only thing I see, hitting up this polity, abusing people, speaking in terms that are unprintable. I don't know what it connotes is just, people, have some indecent conduct. That is what I see. And it should not happen. The way this thing has, been, taken, suggests that it's himself that must decide who becomes or who doesn't become. It cannot happen. He's an individual. If he has said that he's not on the ballot, it is true he's not on the ballot. If you're not on the ballot, you too must exercise some decorum in addressing those who are on the ballot. You should know it too that you cannot abuse a governor. It is not done anywhere. It smacks of, modicum of decency. If you're not on the ballot, for God's sake, conduct yourself. Put yourself, let us have a reversal of position. If it was himself that was on the ballot, will he condone some of this conduct? No. I want to appeal to him as a friend that please let us be decent in our campaign. You know how much you shout and dance and jump around the place, or the names you give to people? I know people are not stupid. They are not foolish. You cannot talk from both sides of the mouth. And then you cannot be ambivalent on the issues. You cannot have an unfair assessment of somebody, and you speak that in public, no matter how indecent it is, and then you turn around again. You are trying to turn things again to say what you said before is not correct. Are you talking to fools? So a lot of us, when we look at it, we have been on this stuff for a very long time. If I was involved in national politics from 1992 till this date, I don't think there's anybody in this environment, including Comrade Oshiomhole, that was in partisan politics. We have been here. We have been doing it. We have been quiet. We have been decent about it. So you cannot, be an embodiment of hypocrisy. You will tell people this is what you are, and you conduct yourself in another manner. So a lot of us, the message we have to give to the people, will keep giving the message. I have the largest number of voters in my senatorial district. I'm the one coordinating the election in my senatorial district. All right? For me, the PDP candidate was with us. We all labored for him in 2016. he decided to change to the other platform. And as he has changed, we remain with our party. I'm PDP. Whatever position I have in the Senate is because I'm PDP. Whatever I have today, I'm in the Senate, is because I'm PDP. The people of Edo South Central District voted for me. And they have not asked me to leave the party. So there's no way I'm going to support the APC. I'm going to support my party. We already have power. The governorship we lost under very mysterious circumstances in the past. By the grace of God, we have had it back.
Okay.
And now we want to sustain it. And nothing really is going to stand in our way, because the people too are glad that this is the direction the state is going. The overbearing tendencies of certain persons, people are tired and sick of all of this.
Okay.
And there's nothing they're going to do about it.
Very quickly.
It's certainly going to come to pass.
Very quickly, Senator, in 40 seconds, if you can, let's talk about the developments in the State House of Assembly. As the 7th senator and a member of the PDP, does this rattle your party, considering the power they might wield in local politics in the state ahead of these elections? And how concerned are you about those developments at the State House of Assembly?
You see, let me say something. Yes, people who have been elected or people who are leaders in any political party or platform certainly are assumed to have some level, of followership. But that number is not anything, it's infinitesimal compared to the larger majority of the people who have to make the choice. So whether you have the PDP, you have the APC, membership put together, the leaders and members put together, they are still small compared to the voting public. That said, now everything that is happening, from the time the house was, supposedly inaugurated, until date, a lot has bordered on, one, lack of understanding, abysmal ignorance, and then, of course, no respect for the rule of law. So there is no way anybody can venerate the ugly thing that is happening in the State House Assembly. Whether you are 23, or whether you are 27, or whether you are 24, or whether you are 17, everything has bordered on illegality. If you are not inaugurated, as far as I know what the Constitution says when it comes to proclamation of an assembly. This is what you have to do. Those steps have been followed. And if those steps have been followed, and a court of competent jurisdiction has equally adjudicated on the matter to say this is the way it is, for God's sake, there has to be respect for the rule of law. Anything that is predicated on of course, on illegality cannot stand. So whether you are, going to throng the place and you say you want to effect this or effect that, or call a deputy clerk of assembly to inaugurate, there is no place in our constitution that makes for a deputy clerk. It is the clerk that gets, of course, the proclamation, letter from the governor or from the president, and after which the presiding officer is elected and he swears them in. The clerk has finished his duty. He lives there. And, of course, the presiding officer now will swear in the other members. That is the way it is done. What happens in the National Assembly is what happens in the State Assembly. So when you come and you say proclamation is done, proclamation is not done, and because I said that the governor has done his job, he sent a proclamation letter to the clerk, and the clerk conducted it. The same thing happened in 2015 when we got to the National Assembly. And those who felt that they needed to be somewhere else, they went somewhere else. And once we formed the quorum, which is a thought, we went ahead and elected, our presiding officers.
Thank you, Senator Urhogide.
Bukola Saraki, and then, of course, the Kuremadu. And then after they were sworn in, they swore us in.
Well, thank you,
so
Senator.
So it is the clerk that the Constitution recognizes. So